I live about 20 miles from the city in which I work. I live out in the country, and about a short walking distance from my house is a highway, and on the corner is a 24/7 gas station. Last week, on a Saturday night, I went by there before midnight to grab some Cahoon peanuts. I see one car parked on the side, which is normal. Usually just a guy working, and rarely any customers at this time. Do you ever feel a feeling of dread overcome you, like when you know something is wrong? Well, I walk in and don't see anyone. There's nobody behind the counter or in the store, so I take my time and assume they are in the bathroom or stepped to the back of the store. Surely they heard the chime of the door when I came in. I'm feeling weird and uncomfortable, so I wait a minute even though it seems like forever. So then I call out, "Anyone here?" I wait a minute more and put the peanuts down and walk out the door. I checked the car parked on the side and there wasn't anything troubling. I even glanced on the back side of the store and there was nobody. I'm pretty uncomfortable, so I just called the police. They show up 10 to 15 minutes later, but it really did feel like an hour, and they search the place. They find the cashier dead in the men's bathroom, beaten to death. They call in backup and asked me to recap what I experienced. And then I went home. That ain't even the fucked up part though. So I get home and my dog is in the front yard pissing and just staring at me. He's an inside dog, and my front door is cracked open. My heart is racing, so I grab my dog and head back to the gas station and let the police know. They send one of the guys to search my house. Nothing is stolen or out of place, but there is a sign of forced entry. So this was last week, and about 5 hours ago, I got a call from my brother who works in the county sheriff office. Supposedly, they pulled the camera footage, and about 10 minutes before I walked into the store, someone came in, started punching the cashier, and then dragged him into the bathroom. On the footage, you can see me walk in and look around and call out. And then you can see me walk out and check the car, walk to my vehicle, and make a call. About the time I'm in the vehicle, the alleged murderer walks out of the bathroom and sneaks out the back door. And before leaving the view of the camera, he takes off in the general direction of my house. Fortunately, my wife was out with some friends watching Beauty and the Beast, again. But I'm convinced that I missed a murderer at the gas station, and then he broke into my house. This week, I had a new security system installed, along with a new front door. But I'm pretty sure whoever did this is still out there. And to address some comments here, I think it was a coincidence that he broke into my house, if it was actually him that did it. It was late at night and there were no vehicles, and since my house was within 200 yards, it was probably just an opportunity. So, I'm a 16-year-old guy, and I wasn't expecting this to happen to me. So I just want to point out that this doesn't only happen to women. 2 days ago, I was coming back from school. For background information, the bus students goes to the center of town. I take that one, and then I take another bus to get to my stop, where I have to walk maybe 200 or 300 meters to my house. I took the bus to school towards the center, then waited at my stop. There were other kids from other schools that waited. And then the creep. He wore his hat down and was glancing at me every now and then. I ignored him by putting my earphones in. This lasted for 10 minutes until the bus finally came. I forgot about the guy, but was still creeped out. I got on the bus and took an empty seat. I noticed the creep get on the bus too, and he was walking towards me. My red flags weren't out yet, but I still checked just in case. He took a seat beside me, and the bus started heading to the next stop. I heard something in the background of my music. I turned the volume down, and I heard a voice from behind me. It was from the same fucking guy. I pressed pause, and I heard him ask, "Hey, I think we live next to each other.
Do you think you could tell me at which stop we're supposed to leave?
Of course, you'd think it's stupid of me to tell him the truth. But it'd be a bit of an asshole move to tell him bullshit if he really does live near me. The bus approached his nearest stop, that is, 5 or 6 stops from my place. I changed seats, imitating as if I needed to get off the bus. The creeper moved too. God damn it, he's lying and is following me. I then waited for one of the busier stops, and God was with me, because there was a crowd of teens, probably planning to smoke and drink. As soon as the doors opened, I ran the fuck away from the bus and crossed the roads and entered a random shop. I kept my head down and looked out the window. As soon as the students were separating, I looked for the creep, and I could see him looking for me. I took off my hoodie and put it in my bag. I then went into the bathroom and made my hair wet. I fucked up my hair to make myself look at least a little bit different, and then I left the shop. I walked a long way towards the next stop, making turns at every possibility. After walking around a bit, I went to a small cafe and waited in there for a bit. I sent a text to my dad to see if he could get me. He asked why, and I told him the whole thing. He picked me up like Usain Bolt and then drove me home. I don't know who the hell that guy was and what he was planning to do to me, but I don't think he even lives near me, and I fucking hope not. But whatever the fuck it is, creep on the bus, let's not meet. Recently, and by recently I mean like 8 months ago, I had never had an experience like this before. I moved to an island in the South Pacific and have gotten the hiking bug, so I try and get out to new locations as much as I possibly can, what with work eating into my precious time. This happened about 2 weeks ago. Since I live in the South Pacific region, it gets mighty hot, driving all but the most insane hikers indoors, unless it's at night. Of course, I'm not a masochist, so I try and do all my hiking in the early hours of the morning or in the evening when it starts to get cool. I've never been afraid of going hiking by myself. I did it when I lived in Oregon and never ran into any problems with it. But my island isn't my friendly home state. I always carry pepper spray, and when I used to go hiking in Montana and Wyoming, I would sometimes carry a handgun to ward off anything I couldn't take on, whether it was a bear or a person. But I had always gotten off considerably lucky. I got to the trailhead at about 6:30 in the evening. The trail was called the 1,000 Steps, but in all honesty it was mostly just a walk straight down to the cliff, and then a grueling journey back up. I didn't want to go, but my dog, Mad Moxie, needed to be walked, and I had done the hike so many times that I could probably do it in my sleep. The first thing I noticed when I pulled up was an old, rickety, rusty old blue pickup truck with a big plastic tarp over the bed to keep out the rain. These are pretty common on the island, affectionately earning them the name the Guam Bombs. I didn't think much of it as I hooked up Moxie and started heading down the trail, trying my best to ignore the mosquitoes that were making a meal out of my exposed neck. Heading down the trail was relatively easy. Avoiding the banana spiderwebs, I felt the stress of my day slowly unwind as the underbrush grew darker and the night approached. I made it all the way down to the water's edge when I noticed a man standing about 100 yards away. It was dark enough now that I could only see his silhouette, so I have no idea if he was looking at me or at the water. But I chose to ignore him and instead pulled Moxie's ball from my backpack and threw it for her a few times to get her wiggles out. After some time, the man started walking over to me and stopped maybe about 10 feet away. Now, I'm not a tiny waif of a woman. I'm 23 years old and I stand at about 5'6". And this guy was just a couple of inches taller than me. But most of the locals were on the smaller side. And something about him just felt weird. "Evening," I greeted as he nodded and looked down at Moxie, who had just returned from running after her ball. I stooped down to pet her now sweaty head, and the man kept his eyes trained on my dog. "Can I help you, sir?"
It was a pretty dog,
he responded mildly.
You alone?
"Well, I have my dog," I said lamely, trying to sound braver than I was feeling. "So I'm never alone." I tried to emphasize on the fact that I had my dog with me, but the man seemed unfazed by my statement.
Oh, well, have a good night.
With that, he turned around and started walking back towards the trailhead. I watched his shadow disappear into the trees and waited for about half an hour before I too started walking back up towards the path, my mind on high alert as Moxie pulled me through the trees and up the cliffside. The crickets pierced the night as I climbed the steps, illuminated by my flashlight. My hands were full with Moxie's leash and my light, but you can bet your buns I would have my pepper spray out if I had an extra hand. Finally, my light pierced the trees at the top, and I practically booked it up the hill. When I got to the top, I nearly shat myself. That rusted blue pickup truck was sitting in the parking lot still, but the passenger side door was practically touching my driver's side door. Inside the car, I could faintly see two men sitting in the cab, and I could feel them watching me. Slowly, I approached my car, walking as far over to the passenger side as I could, and kept Moxie with me as close as I opened the door and crawled over to the driver's side. At that moment, the door of the pickup truck flew open and my dog started going apeshit, barking at the two people who were now outside of the car and trying to break into mine. Heart in my chest, I rammed the keys into the ignition and tore out of the parking lot so quickly I nearly took my mirror off. I called my mom as soon as I got home, and she begged me to call the police. Unfortunately, the police here on the island aren't as vigilant as they are on the mainland. And this area is known for car thefts, mugging, and other debaucheries, as I've learned from my coworkers later that week. Earlier this month, another girl had actually disappeared from that area without a trace. And it makes me wonder if the men in the blue pickup truck did or didn't have something to do with it. If I hadn't had Moxie with me, would I have been mugged or worse? If I learned anything from this experience, it's that for lady hikers like me, please always take your pepper spray with you, go hiking in groups, and always let someone know where you're going. It might save your life someday. And to the men in the pickup truck, let's never meet again. And I did call the cops about the missing female in the truck I saw. They said they would investigate into it. But so far, I haven't heard anything, but I fear for this woman's life. And I realize how easily it could have been my own. Also, I realize that hiking alone, especially for a female, is a dangerous pastime. And I do realize again how foolish and naive I was being. But I have learned, and I plan not to hike alone anymore, that's for sure. I got about 2 words into my explanation when our driver lunged for the guy, screaming, "You fucking I'll kill you. I have my iron pipe right here and I swear to God I'll beat you to death."